Hello and welcome to BroPartisan Hacks, where we discuss politics, culture, or whatever else we feel like. Hope you enjoy this short clip from the full episode. Welcome back to BroPartisan Hacks. I think today we're going to get into something that personally, the two of us have argued about for 5 years now. Going on, right? I think something about that. So it's been a long time. We could go on this topic for obviously 5 years, at least, and we're just going to kind of hit our positions on this topic and kind of where we stand. And I think there are some things that we'll agree upon, but there are things that we'll never agree upon, and I think that we're going to touch on some of those today. So this topic, of course, is near and dear to my brother's heart: the Medicare for all.
Indeed.
Specifically, the Bernie Sanders plan. I do believe is your latest and greatest, the 2019 version that was released. Is that correct, Reese?
Yeah, I think so. I think he had a plan and Pramila Jayapal had a plan, and they were both very, very similar. I actually think Jayapal's plan was a little bit better. Had a couple different provisions in it that I liked more than Bernie's plan, believe it or not. But essentially, it's the same. It's the same thing. Just provisionally different in how they went about some things. I don't exactly remember. You and I went over it in pretty good detail, and we were sending both copies of each bill back and forth. I don't know if you remember that.
No, I do. I remember that. Yeah, you were like, and I hate this part, and you were like, I don't like this part. This is gotta have this. Yeah. So I guess I'll get started because, as you said, you can go over and you get very emotional about these things, and I'm gonna call you out on that. So we'll just go right in. So my problem with Medicare for all, at the foundational level, I do not want to give that much power to the federal government. Now I say that, and I recognize that, and this is where we are going to agree. Our healthcare system is busted. It's so broken, and it has, I think, a lot to do with some of the regulations that are in place and the things that have been established a lot by the government and a lot by, we'll just say, greedy for-profit entities. But I do not believe that the answer is giving that power to the federal government, all of it. It's my firm belief that there are other things that we could do to reduce costs that could be implemented and not get rid of private insurance altogether, like the Sanders bill does. There are, and we can go into it, and I'm sure we will, there are costs associated with the bill as it's proposed, that is vetted from both institutes on the left and right. And then what that really means for the taxpayer versus what they're getting out of it. There are many concerns I have with those issues, and fundamentally, when it comes down to a lot of the arguments that I hear for healthcare being a right, I don't think, just from a principled standpoint, that anyone has the right to anyone else's work. Now, that's not to say that we can't do
laughable
things for people. Yes, I know. You've heard this from me before. You know my position on this, and I still hold to it. I don't think that we would get the service that we get. I don't believe that the government would be very good stewards of our healthcare. And that's really what it comes down to. Now, is there other solutions that we could maybe look at where it's a mixed public-private, and we do other things to improve competition? And there's evidence that says Obamacare killed competition with regards to some of the limits and restrictions. And in certain states, there's only one insurer that are active in some of these some states. All the others were driven out of business. So that's my basic position. There's things that we have to fix. Giving it to government isn't the right answer.
So I turned off my microphone just so I wouldn't talk over you through the whole spiel there, just so we're all clear. Okay, couple things. One, we've all taken economics 101, yes? Or at least you and I have both. We've taken economics. We have a father who has a degree in economics. We're pretty well versed. We know how the supply and demand curve works, yes? So when the prices go up, demand tends to go down. That's how economics works, right? Would you say there's a value curve as it moves? Yeah?
Yes. Yeah.
So healthcare doesn't work like that. The demand curve on healthcare is inelastic. It's inelastic. So that means when the price goes up, the demand stays the same. It doesn't go down. It's not, healthcare is not a Yeti cup. It's not a sponsor yet. It's not.
This is a brand name.
It's not an iPad. It's not, you know what I mean? Like, you can make choices on those things. If the price is too high, that's a $30 stupid cup, right? Maybe somebody don't want to spend that much money on a Yeti cup. They can go buy the Arctic, also not a sponsor, for like half the price. Okay? So you can make those choices. What you can't choose is whether or not you go get a new heart, whether or not you get a new lung, whether you get treatment for cancer. When, let's see, when prices go up, demand stays the same. This is how we get price gouging in healthcare. Insulin, for example, costs $3 to make. And these two companies, now I understand, please don't get into the stupid patent argument, because that's another situation altogether. But these two companies basically control the entire market for insulin. And so that they have I guess it's an oligopoly. I don't know what you would call that, monopoly, but it's two companies and they control the prices. So they jack the prices up. Well, people have to have that to stay alive. And so they can charge whatever the fuck they want, right? And if they if they have insurance, the insurance continues because they're part of the grand scheme of medicine in this whole thing, because it's all a money-making operation here, right? So ultimately, when you are profiting from the health of people, it is absolutely, to me, absolutely immoral. It is unethical. It is evil. Evil. Okay? Because there's no price that you wouldn't pay to help to keep your child alive. There's no price you wouldn't pay to keep your loved ones alive. There's not a cap to that. And so I would absolutely bankrupt myself in order to keep my children alive. I would absolutely, without question, bankrupt myself. Right?
Yeah.
I would hope that you would do the same. And so when you have medical bankruptcy is a fucking thing in this country, it is immoral. There are 500,000 people that declare bankruptcy every year in this country because of medical debt. The other thing, so that ends that conversation, or that part. The other thing that I'm curious about, because I would think that employers would get behind this, like especially the beloved small business owner, right? Because unless they just don't have it, if they want to grow their business, the 50 employee rule, whatever.
Right,
They want
right.
to grow their business, blah, 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 blah. You would think that they would get behind this where it takes that burden off of them. The thing, though, that I don't know how it works is if you're a larger employee and you put all of your or employer and you put all of your employees onto this health plan from Aetna, do you get a kickback from Aetna? I don't know how that works. I've never been in charge of a major corporation, so I wouldn't know how that works.
Yeah, yeah. I see where you're coming from, and to a point, I do agree. I think that the idea of medical bankruptcy is terrible. And again, like my main complaint with the whole situation is giving the insurance to the government, right? And all the payment
but you're
and
still
everything else is going to go to
your
the
doctors are still private. Your pharmacies are still private.
right.
All of those things. So it's just a way to pay for it that's not absolutely 100% corrupt. Because I'm telling you, anytime you have this thing that the health that's for profit, if it's for profit, it's going to go the wrong way. You know, people are scared of death panels. We have death panels right now. If an insurance company, who I didn't vote for, if an insurance company CEO decides that we need to make a little bit more money, our profit margin is a little bit low, we're only trading at $300 a share, we need to be trading at $350. And so he says, hey, we need to cut 10% of all of our payouts. Okay, so you have 10. They go say, hey, we need to cut back 10% of claims. So they start doing that. And then people suffer because of that, right?
Mm.
That already exists.
But you're under the
So
assumption
you
that
have
it doesn't
people
exist
that
under the Medicare
suffer
program,
because
too.
they're paying for it.
You're under the
No, I'm
assumption
not.
that doesn't already happen under
I'm
Medicare
not
as
saying
well.
that.
And I'm telling you it does. Like,
Under Medicare currently?
yes, under current Medicare, that already happens. So the government already takes people and they say, hey, you know what? We need to deny so many claims every month. They got those, and every insurance company
Where are
does
you
it.
getting that information from?
From my friend who works in the healthcare industry and actually has argued with the people from Medicare to get his clients in the nursing homes paid for the rehab services that they're supposed to be having. So when they fall down and break their hip, he's a physical therapist. He goes and works on these people, and he has to go and argue with the Medicare people to get the funding for their bills to be paid.
So Medicare people, that's the government, or Medicare people that's through the insurance companies? Because those are two different things. Because the way current Medicare is set up is it still goes through Aetna. It still goes through Blue Cross Blue Shield. So I'm just curious, like, who is he actually arguing with?
That's a good question. I'm just telling you, his patients are in the average of like 68 plus for most of his rehab patients, unless they're like young athletes that get hurt or whatever, he's working on them. But
because Medicare, while wildly popular as a program, it really is. It is not the same setup as Medicare for all. I've actually had to have this conversation with my wife because she works in the pharmacy industry as well, and she's like, "Well, what you're describing?" When I was telling her about Medicare for all, she's like, "That's not what Medicare is," and I said, "I know," because there are parts of Medicare that are still covered by like a couple, like four of the major insurance companies. So United Healthcare, Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield. And they would never be our sponsor. Fuck them.
Darn, missing out on the big bucks right there.
Right.
So
right.
The point remains is that a lot of the problems with existing Medicare, and I'll take you at your word that obviously it's not the same. I know it's not the same. The bills are different. The way it's handled is different. The way it's written is very different than the way Medicare exists today. But what does exist today, and you can read any of the books on any hospital, you can read any reports from anybody who's involved in medical billing today, they don't pay at cost services So, like, if you have a procedure that costs $1,000, Medicare might come up and say, well, we're going to give you $800. Now, the hospital's going to turn around and charge $12,000 or whatever, right? But even the Medicare as it exists today doesn't cover the cost of doing whatever procedure it exists. And I think that's a lot of the problems with the overcharging.
Cost.
I'm assuming that tubing costs money, the equipment costs money, the rental costs money. Now, then you get into the other charges.
When was the last time you looked at a
room
hospital
charges.
bill? Right.
2019. This
Right. Right. I get what you're saying, but I'm not buying any of that. And a lot of those costs I think are due to what they have to pay to insurance companies, the medical coding that they have to do for each individual insurance company, the bullshit that goes on. I think you can eliminate now. I'm so sorry that we would have to eliminate some jobs in medical coding.
I stumbled across this. I'm going to share the screen with you. Hold on, it's going to mess your camera up real quick, but I'm going to show this to you.
Okay.
This is the medical coding program. Time to complete, 4 to 12 months, cost $800. So it could take you a year to learn how to even do the billing for like medical coding these days.
Yeah.
Just to like work at a hospital and fill out the programs.
Right.
You can get a bachelor's in this program. Just for billing purposes. Just to learn how to like have the codes written down for the insurance purposes. I thought that was a bit much. Yeah. Is there a reason that it's this complicated?
Yeah. No, I agree. There's a reason. It's for costs. It's for them to be able to charge whatever they want. I'm just saying. I think we can go through all this and you can litigate all of it. At the end of the day, if healthcare and medicine is for profit, it is immoral. It is not the same as any publicly traded commodity. It is not. And you absolutely cannot judge it the same. It's not an open market thing. He just got home. So yeah, it's not the same. It's not a publicly traded. It is a publicly traded commodity. It's just you got your phone. It's just not. You can't treat it the same. The demand, like I said, is inelastic.
It's inelastic. Yeah, no, I get that.
And so, when you can charge whatever you want, it doesn't work like an open market flibbity-doo, whatever you want to call it. Like it just doesn't. Yeah, it's not the same, and you cannot treat it the same.
How much? Let's talk cost, because I want to get into this, because this is really where this is the traditional Republican side argument, right? Oh, it's going to cost too much. Mm-hmm. Would you agree?
I don't care.
Yeah.
And it has been evidenced that Republicans don't actually care either.
I'll agree.
They don't actually care. They pretend to care. At least the ones in office pretend to care. But you wouldn't have passed this 2017 tax cut bill if you cared about deficits and debts.
I think
you wouldn't have passed that.
Of magnitude difference. So let me walk through some of this. So the total budget for the United States government is about $4.6 trillion. So that's what, 9 zeros? Right?
Give or take.
Yeah. So that's $4.6 trillion for the entire annual budget of the federal government. How much of that money is garnered from taxpayers and actual tax revenue? And the answer to that is about $1.46 trillion.
Yeah.
actually comes from taxpayers, and the annual cost of healthcare in this country, as it stands today, with the current billing, of course, because they're going off of the United States costs, right? Is I've got it written down here. Right around $3 trillion annually in healthcare cost. So it's not a matter
that's including
of
everything out of pocket. That's including, because here's the thing,
all
and I'll just tell you,
costs.
we already pay a employer tax or payroll tax that goes into Medicare, Medicaid. Yes,
Social Security,
and Social Security. So we already pay into that. If you tell me that, let's just say that I pay the exact same amount that I pay now in insurance premiums, and I pay that into Medicare, Medicaid. But for my family, for me plus family, which is a whole lot of money right now. But my deductible and my max out of pocket, my deductible is $5,500, and my max out of pocket is, I think, $10,000
annually or something like that.
Annually, yes. So once I hit the deductible, then it's 30% until I hit $10,000. So needless to say,
and your premium per month, I'm just going to take a shot in the dark, is about $1,400
per month. Hell no, I wouldn't have insurance if it were that much. It's about $7,000. I have that.
There's a guy I work with who has kids. He's like, I think he's pushing 60. And he's a pipe fitter. He's a multi-craft that works for us. And he was telling me that between him and his wife, they're paying like $1,200 a month in insurance right now.
Dude, my buddy in the pipe fitters union pays $0 for him and his whole family. So maybe you should join the union.
Maybe you should.
But well, at any rate, my point to that is if I pay, let's just say I paid that same amount into taxes, and I don't have a deductible, I am all in. Let's say you double it, and I don't have a deductible, I'm probably all in. I got a buddy that owns his own business, and he has been the most anti Medicare for all person, and this year he got COVID, and he had to go to the hospital, and I can't even tell you how much money he spent, but he was in the ICU for 11 days, and when he got out, short of breath, whatever, just health problems. He actually came out and said, you know what, I've changed my mind, because he's been paying $2,200 a month. $2,200 a month for him and his family to be insured healthcare wise, and he still has like a $10,000 deductible. Yeah. And so he was like, there's not a better option. He's like, I cannot. And he says, I've looked. I'm in the insurance industry. I've looked for a better deal, and there's not one for being self-employed. And so he can't provide it for his employees. Because he has employees, he can't provide health care for his employees because he can't find a deal that makes sense, and so he's just providing for him and his family, and so he's really, really struggling, trying to find something that makes economic sense, and it doesn't exist. That's a mortgage, dude. That's another mortgage payment, $2,200 a month, like, which is what it would be if. It would be around the same thing if I were to put my kids into an actual daycare at 3 under 3. 3 children under 3 years old, it would be around a mortgage payment. Yeah. So, but that's another topic altogether.
What, daycare?
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's no way that it doesn't remain the same as long as it's for profit. Nothing will change. There's no regulation that you can put into it that's going to change how the health is treated. It's just it doesn't.
What if? Hear me out on this one. Because I was actually thinking about this the other day. Because like I said, I do agree with you as far as the inelastic modes of the medical industry and all those other things. There are businesses that support the medical industry that could be for profit. You know, like if you're creating medical surgical tubing or whatever, like just for an example, like plastic.
Well,
right?
absolutely.
Hey, let me finish. Because
okay, I'm sorry.
if you were to take all of the corporate hospitals and basically say, okay, from now on, if you want to operate a hospital, now you have to be a nonprofit. And so if it's like, and I'm just thinking like, you know, what are some of the best hospitals in the country, and there are nonprofits already, like St. Jude's is a nonprofit hospital, and they're one of the best in the world, right? I mean, that's the burn clinic. If you get burned, you go to St. Jude's, right? And you could... So I think that would be like a step one, right? And the reason I say all that, again, I don't want like government entities involved because I read too much history and I just don't trust them at all. But if they were to be self-governing,
can I jump in on that?
I might be okay with that.
Okay, so you said that you read too much history and you don't trust governments at all.
Yeah.
Right. What about like the 30 or 40 countries that have a universal healthcare system? Like one of my favorite things to do, let me just say this. One of my favorite things to do to right-wingers and Republicans when they're like, I'm going to leave this country if blah, 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 blah. And I always ask, where are you going to go? You can't hear me?
No, I hear you. I'm just waving my hand as like it's, yeah, you talk to dummies. So go ahead.
But even you, I said, where are you going to go? I've asked you this question, and you said Poland. Yes? That's what you said.
That was one of my choices, yeah.
And so I looked it up, and this is always my favorite thing. Without fail, when they say they're leaving, without fail, every place that they say they're going to go has universal health care, with the exception of one time that this has happened, and I think it was Panama. I don't think they have universal health care. But that's the only time that has ever happened where somebody didn't say they were going to leave to go somewhere that had government-run health care.
Does Bolivia?
I don't know. Bolivia right now is being they voted in a socialist.
Oh, so
I don't know if you knew this. So they're on their way if they don't have it now. It's actually a lot of really, really good things are happening in Bolivia right now. I think it's Bolivia.
Good things. Is it going to be like Bernie Sanders, like congratulating Venezuela for taking over the oil industry?
Yeah, hopefully.
Like the government taking over the oil industry?
Hopefully.
When they can go from producing like 80 million barrels a day to like 3 million barrels a year.
So it's always so funny to me when I don't want to say you people, but you people, you want to bring up Venezuela and act like America's not at fault for any of that. You just want to pretend that America had no part in destroying their economy. No, they did it to themselves. We had no part in it at all. It was all them and their socialist agenda. America didn't sanction or trade embargo anything.
Why were they embargoed? Why were they trade embargoed?
Because they're communists. They're socialist because they didn't want American companies. They didn't want American companies. Yeah. Right. They didn't want American companies
American
in there.
Assets, so they were like, you know what? You can't trade that anymore.
Because capitalism. because they took away profits for American companies.
So I told you I was doing a lot of. I did some research on like medical tourism, didn't I?
Yeah, you sent me that thing.
Yeah, I found some interesting things. I wanna hit you with some of these things.
Okay.
Well, first off, this note I have right handy is about your nationalized healthcare and everything. It's out-of-pocket costs for each country in the range of 15% of health expenditure. So this is going back to your statement about like all these countries have national medicine and nobody pays out-of-pocket expenses, and out-of-pocket costs for each country is 15% for Canadians, 28% for people in Switzerland, and as high as 61% of all health expenditures in, say, like Singapore. It's pretty disingenuous. Well, it just says it's disingenuous for U.S. politicians to make promises by promoting a system of no copays and deductibles that does not exist anywhere else in the world.
Yes, it does. What is it in England?
Copays
under the NHS. Yeah. What do they pay? Because you do pay, but it's like $14 instead of $1,400.
Right,
so you do pay.
Again,
that's true.
The cost itself.
So I guess
so that goes into the medical tourism of what does a hip replacement or a knee replacement cost here? About $50,000 to $75,000, depending on which hospital you choose for. Yeah, like if you're to get your knee replacement, it's like $50,000.
Yeah.
If you were to just go do it somewhere. But if you were to go to India, it would be like $5,000. So not only would it be cheaper for you to go there, to get the knee replacement, to fly there, to stay in the hospital for rehab, to be able to get back on the plane and come home, would still be cheaper than going to a hospital here.
And then they kick me out after 2 or 3 days, and say, "All right, get after it, Skippy."
No. There's a whole rehab program. Of what I was looking up. They'll put you up. Like you stay in this hospital next to the rehab center. You stay there for like 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh my! In America?
No, in India. Like you stay there with the hip replacement, knee replacement, and they rehab you.
That's what I'm saying.
Until you're comfortable to get on a plane.
In America, they kick you out, 3 out.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Get on out of here. But the point that I'm trying to make is that over there, it's both public and private options.
Mm-hmm. Well, they'll let you come in and pay out of pocket, so especially if you're American.
Here? Why is the gouging happening here? What else is happening? What else is
because they can, because of insurance companies. They can. Because they can. Because rapacious, mafia-like middlemen known as Aetna. I'm telling you, it is a criminal enterprise. Absolutely. And healthcare absolutely 100% should be decommodified. I'm still trying to get my iMac to work here. It is driving me bananas. I don't know what's going on.
Is it just not working for you?
It's just not, like, nothing is pulling up, so I just restarted it.
Yeah.
Whatever. Because I wanted to pull up my notes over here, so I've got you talking over here.
Right, but you can't.
It's very frustrating.
Your notes going. Yeah.
Oh well.
I've got a few notes. So you don't think that your favorite piece of legislature, the milk toast insurance program, as you called it,
Obamacare?
Yeah.
Or the ACA?
The ACA. You don't think that exacerbated problems with the insurance companies?
Absolutely, but it's because it's a conservative right-wing program.
Hmm.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It was invented by the Heritage Foundation.
I think that's a false statement. What you just
No, I've
said.
looked it up. I've
No, no,
looked it up.
no. It's I
I
mean,
looked it
you're
up from the
calling it
Heritage Foundation.
right, but then you're passing it off as this conservative ideal when it wasn't like. Basically, what I'm trying to say is they don't give a damn about us.
No, I agree
Like
with
all
that.
those
No,
people up there, the Schumers, the McConnells, they don't care.
right. But my point is, and this is one thing
So
that
you're
actually.
drawing a line between what would
Let me
be.
say this. Hold on, because let me say this. And actually, Chuck Schumer really, really, and I don't like Chuck Schumer, but he really impressed me with what he said this week. And what he said was, we spent 2009 negotiating with Republicans over the ACA and negotiating with Republicans over the bailouts and trying to reach across the aisle and trying to do bipartisan whatever. And so they negotiated down on the ACA, and then negotiated, and not a single fucking Republican voted for the fucking ACA. Not one. So they negotiated with them to try and do bipartisan whatever, and then ended up being for absolutely nothing. Not one voted for it. And then they spent the next 10 years trying to get rid of the ACA.
Not really. I don't think they're.
What
I
do you
don't
mean
think
not
so.
really?
I say not really because they never wanted to get rid of it. They wanted the talking points for their primary people, and they never wanted to get rid of it.
So
I think
those,
there might have
those
been
cases
some.
in court, those failed cases in court, that didn't happen.
I think they knew they would go nowhere.
What? You know that the mandate doesn't exist anymore because of Republicans, right?
Hey, buddy. The mandate doesn't exist anymore because of one Republican.
Who's that? Donald Trump? Ted Cruz?
Yeah, that's who. That's who.
Yeah.
And you know what? The cost of insulin is still high because of one Democrat.
Who's that?
Because that was supposed to go into effect on the 22nd of last month, but it was stayed by the FDA under an executive order that said, hey, you know what? We're not actually going to make insulin cheaper. We're not going to do the preferred country program where we can charge the cheaper price. We want to make sure that our buddies in pharmacology and the pharmaceutical companies can still gouge whatever the hell they want. So rather than paying the Mexico price of $10 for a shot of insulin, you're still paying your $300 or whatever. That's one guy.
What a dick. I always said I wasn't a Biden fan.
I know.
I
I'm just saying, the idea that there's still like this separation of like, all the Republicans out there hate you and all the Democrats. No, they're on the same side. Like they don't.
You know what?
They don't want to do anything good for us.
You know what I think, really? I think they should do more nationwide, or some, not more, nationwide, like, ballot legislation. I don't know what you call that. What do you call that? Like Oregon voted in to legalize or decriminalize all drugs. Florida voted in to raise the minimum wage $50 an hour. What is that when they do that?
Well, it's
ballot something.
It's state by state, and it's like are they doing referendums or like will the people actually direct? Well, referendum would be like
No,
hey,
direct ballots.
Yeah, direct ballots.
It's
so in the state of Texas, I believe that is only for like constitutional amendments. But to amend the Texas Constitution, I think you only have to have like 51% or a majority vote.
I'm telling you. Well, I was talking about Florida because Florida voted all the way for Trump, right? They like heavy, margins for Trump. but they also voted to raise the minimum wage, which Trump was against. So I think a lot of the issues, like they view the elections as personality pageants, but they typically, most people go left on issues like legalizing marijuana, like Medicare for all. Medicare for all is still wildly popular, and it's even more popular now that we're in a pandemic. You may not agree with it because you watch Tim Pool, but just kidding. Sorry, but no, like all polls, even the poll where they worded it in a very right-wing framing, it still pulled at like 60%.
Yeah.
So, and when they frame it in a Bernie-esque way of framing, it pulls at like 70 to 80%. So like
when they're asking as general, like, do you think we should take care of people? Do you think it's good to take care of people? And you're like, sure. They're like, Medicare for all, gotcha.
I am for good things and against bad things.
Excellent. Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm torn on that. Like, I don't have time to read all the bills that come through the House and everything. So, like, the idea that we can have more of those, like, yeah, we can do more of them. I don't need 1,000 every session of Congress or whatever, how many they're pushing through. I don't know about you.
Well, I mean, I don't either. But I think on some of these things you should. Like some of these bigger things, absolutely. I think you should. Because the reality is, in my humble opinion, most Republicans don't want to change anything, hence the term conservative. So their whole mission is to stop any sort of progress whatsoever, right? That's the mission of a conservative. They want to conserve what is happening now, right? So they're not really trying to push any new legislation. They just want to stop other legislation.
Well, that's how they became the party of no, right? Under Obama. Like, hey, we're gonna do something, and they're like, no. We're gonna try something else. No, I don't want to do that. No.
Yeah, that was Mitch McConnell's mission. It was
like the biggest problem I have with the people who are elected now is they don't have any ideas, and I don't know. Like we've become so.
Well, when they do have ideas, you shit on them.
Well, me, yeah, I should. A lot of them are bad.
Well, but the thing is like I think a lot of people like look for things that are bad in order to shit on them, instead of saying, "Hey, this is a good idea, but maybe we could change this," or "This is a good idea, but maybe we don't do the cow farts." You know what I mean? Like when somebody decided that
coming for my cheeseburgers.
When somebody decided that they were coming after your burgers, people were like, "Nope, throw the whole thing out. It's over." And that's so stupid. Like I just don't understand that logic at all. Like I don't get it. Like, sure, you didn't like a provision in there, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't start investing in green energy.
I think that any green energy plan that doesn't include nuclear energy is disingenuous. If it doesn't include nuclear energy, it's not going to get the job.
But we already have nuclear energy.
I know.
That's not innovating.
The problem is amount, right? And I've told you this before, that there's not enough wind, there's not enough solar power in the northeast quadrant to power those cities.
Yet.
Exactly, yet. So the idea that they can like put this like 5-year timeline.
Do you
have any idea how long it takes to build a power plant?
No. Then it's not a 5-year timeline. It's like a 50-year timeline. What are you fucking talking about?
The first plan.
Like most of the plans go to 2050.
Shut down coal plants in 5 years. You can't do that. That was the Green New Deal. 5 years.
Coal plants are mostly shut down already. What the fuck are you talking about? Most of the coal plants are already shut down. Almost everything has gotten away from coal. Trump reopened coal even though it was a dying industry.
And now they're banning fracking, right? So you went from coal to gas turbines. Coal still existed.
They're banning new fracking on public land. They're banning fracking on public land. They are not banning fracking on private land. So no, that is incorrect. Read the bill.
That's the.
Oh, you just say you didn't have time for it.
Well, the idea that people haven't lost their jobs is false.
I didn't say that they hadn't lost their jobs. But saying that we can't do anything in order to. And that was on Indian reservation land, you dickheads. Like we weren't supposed to take
Louisiana, where it fed the pipeline.
We weren't supposed to take
that just
their
shut
land.
down this year. This year, they just announced we're shutting these down because we don't have fuel lines anymore.
From the pipeline that wasn't built? I don't. They were
They
building.
don't have the feedstock to run the plants anymore.
From
So
the
either
when
it's
they
from-
shut down.
Either it's
So
from,
I'm confused. The pipeline wasn't finished, but now they don't have feed lines for the pipe that wasn't finished.
from the gas that is no longer being provided to them.
In an efficient manner. Then maybe you shouldn't have tried to build on freaking Indian reservation land.
I feel like we're talking about two different things now.
Probably.
Yeah.
I was talking about the pipeline and everybody lost their jobs. They took their jobs.
They should have done.
All right. So the what were we talking about?
You wanted referendums, and like federal referendums, I guess. And the only constituency that actually happens, where it's a federal constituency where people just like vote on a law, is amendments to the Constitution. That's it. Everything else is state restricted.
Right. The other problem with that though is like, if you'd have done that for like slavery. They've been like, no, we're keeping slavery.
Nah, man, we ain't doing that. I mean, that's a true statement, right? Like, what's like I asked you the other day? You know, it's like if you see yourself as a revolutionary and a person who would stand up for the cause or whatever. It's like, all right, well, if you were, would you stand up for losing your job and being ostracized from society and being cast out of all your social circles and run off the country club and everything else? And
that's why I haven't run for office, right?
Yeah.
Because I am I consider my views pretty controversial. I see Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar and all these people getting death threats daily and their families being threatened, and I'm like, maybe not for me.
Maybe I shouldn't do that because I'm way past them.
That's maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I don't want to put my children through that. And so yeah, no, that's definitely something that I think about because I've really considered running for office before, and every time I think about it, I just think like, man, what would that do to my family? Like, just. I don't know that I could do it, man.
Yeah. It would be a choice.
So I'm trying to become a YouTube personality and have the same thing happen.
So the same thing can happen and you just get called out, right?
So, okay. I just want to throw this in there. Silver lining of the pandemic. What's your favorite thing about the pandemic?
People stay away.
That you want to keep. That's part of society.
I was gonna say people.
Bro, me too.
They leave me
6
alone.
feet in lines is my 6 the distance between me when I get in line is my favorite thing. Holy crap. Like, I'm just like, oh yeah, social protocol says you have to stay away from me. Yes.
You can't
Because
go
there's
stand next to
nothing that
me.
gets on my nerves no more than when I'm trying to buy something and there's somebody like standing over me. Like, I just, oh, did you want to just look at my pen while I'm standing here, you dick? Would you back up? Why are you so close to me? No, it's my favorite. It's my favorite thing, and I'm like, can we just do this from now on? And really, like, because there are still some people that like crowd up, right? But if I get into a line and I stand 6 feet away from the person in front of me, typically the person behind me will also stay away, and it's my favorite thing. I'm just like, can we just keep doing this? That's just. I don't want everybody next to me all the time. I don't like it.
I don't really go out. Most of our stuff is like pick up nowadays. That's kind of convenient, I guess.
Well, I mean, I get, I go and I get a Bang energy drink every morning. Not a sponsor yet. And so, I get my nicotine product, and I have to stop.
Just got purchases to make.
Right. Sometimes you have to.
Well, we have, let's see, we could of course beat that horse to death some more.
Let's move on. That's why I changed the subject.
Yeah, no, that's kind of, that's cool. Talk about, I mean, I got our list here. Did you want to do the language thing? We can jump in on that and give
we
me your
can.
thoughts.
I'm gonna give it a shot. Like I said, I had like a ton of notes over this. Let's see. Okay, so yeah. What do you mean? Because you wrote this, and I want to know what you meant by co-opting of words or whatever it was that you said. Language. How did you word it? I don't have it down.
So I wrote down, why is having custom pronouns a thing? Language control and new definitions to suit political ideas. This is my general thought.
So I'm gonna start because I've thought about that, and because when you wrote it down, I was like, what does he really mean by that? So language and the words that we use are a vehicle to get across ideas. There's been a lot of talk lately about 1984 and George Orwell and that kind of thing. And really what a lot of people don't understand is the limitation of language that he uses in that book. And when they're getting rid of words and they say, I can't give you an example because it's been like 20 years since I read the book, but I have read it all the way through. I didn't start it. Well, I started it like 5 times, and then finally I finished it.
Finally, you finished it, yeah.
But let's just say, let's take the word freedom, okay? And let's say that the only definition that you know about freedom is freedom from something, right? So freedom from oppression, freedom from having to deal with choices.
freedom from choice.
Right? And that's your freedom. You don't have to, you're free from having to make choices. And that's the definition that you know, because it hasn't been defined. That's why the English language is ever evolving, ever developing, because there's always a need for a descriptor, right? So there are, 4,000 words for happy, right? Like, think about it. Think about all the words that you can use to describe the word, or to describe the feeling of happy. And so when you say, why are there so many of these pronouns, and why do they have to create new language? And this is why, is because there has to be some form of descriptor. It's a tool. Language is a tool or a vehicle to get across an idea. And that's why. Because not everybody's the same. And if somebody wants to be called they, well, it's hard for me to like wrap my head around, because syntax doesn't always match up. I can't but whatever you want, it's fine. I don't care. Like, I just don't. They or them, it's weird. But I mean, you could do that. I mean, if you're using proper language, or you're writing an official paper, you use one does not typically blah 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 blah, or when one wants to do a thing, you could throw they in there, but it's kind of annoying, so to speak.
When one wants to do a thing, they should do this.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's like in that context, it's like keeping it vague intentionally to, like, on purpose.
Right.
Like,
right.
He or she could do X, Y, Z, and they're like, "Wow, I don't fit that."
Well, instead of saying he or she, you just say they.
Yeah. But in some contexts,
but
like you said, in the English language, it's supposed to be.
But then, like.
She.
But then, so Republicans or conservatives, however you want to call it. So conservatives are the champions at co-opting language and turning it around on the left, or the liberals, or the progressives, or the socialists, or whatever you want to say.
My favorite example of that was fake news.
Fake news, welfare. Welfare is a word that was used in the Constitution. It says, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice to ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote general welfare." Like, it's in there. But welfare has become a dirty word on the right. Entitlement. It means you are entitled to something. We pay into a thing, we should get the thing out, right? We are entitled to that money, but it's become a dirty word. Socialist has become a huge dirty word. Marxist, dirty word.
They always were. Those two always were.
No, they weren't. Not until
Marxist
they
absolutely
weren't.
was.
Absolutely not.
Like, pinko commies and all that stuff.
You are incorrect, sir. Up until what? McCarthy. So when was?
Up until this,
when?
Right here, it was always a dirty word.
No.
That was when we learned about it.
Karl Marx. What?
That was when we learned about
That's
the
what
realities
you learned?
of living under communist, like, a nation. That's when it was a dirty word. What year was that?
Socialism was not a dirty word until the Americans made it a dirty word. There was a communist party in the United States up until like the 1940s, 1950s. We partnered with the communists against Germany. Uncle Sam and Uncle Joe,
And there were
as in Joseph Stalin.
Lots of people who thought they shouldn't have stopped.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, Eisenhower wanted to keep marching. He wanted to march right into Russia.
Well,
Eisenhower
and then
and
we
Patton both, I
proceeded
believe.
to surround them and cut off all. We proceeded to surround them and cut off all markets from them and suffocated their country. I understand. Like a lot of the things that like people struggle with communism and the things that happened because of America. Here's a shitty take. You want one?
Yeah.
There's an argument to be made that the actions that led to 9/11 were caused by us.
True, but it has nothing to do with communism.
Huh?
I said I'll grant you that one because of the funding of the Afghanis against the Russian invasion of Afghanistan. We did that.
Yeah, we did. But also, those people came from Saudi Arabia, who we also fund, who we also are currently funding the Taliban. We are currently giving weapons to the Taliban, thanks Donald fucking Trump.
Oh, you didn't have your one guy cut that off either?
What?
The party in power hasn't stopped that one yet?
I think there's a chance they're going to, but they have not yet. No. No. So they're in the talks of shutting down the Yemeni genocide, but it hasn't happened yet. Yeah. But all those weapons that we sold to Saudi Arabia after the blatant disregard for the emoluments clause, yeah, they went to the Taliban to wage a war in genocide in Yemen.
Oh, makes sense. Fun, now I know why you have that in there now.
Huh?
I said now I know why you have that in there now.
Emoluments clause?
Yeah. I was wondering why you had it written in there.
So let's go back to the language, because I went into and we kind of got off on communism, but my point is that communism is an idea, socialism is an idea. They are theories, really, and we decided as a capitalist country that wanted to protect our corporations and protect the assets of the wealthy, decided that was a thing that could do damage to the profits, right? And so we waged a actual war, a cold war, and a social war against those things.
I feel like that's a simplistic...
Now let me finish.
Okay.
Now, communism, when it started in Russia, was it was just kind of a project, just like America and the melting pot. It was just kind of a project, and it's kind of the thing that we're trying out, right? So we're trying it out. Well, they get completely shut off from the rest of the world markets. Lenin dies. Stalin takes over. Stalin decides, instead of moving to socialism and giving the people the power and the labor the power, he wants to keep it all for himself, instead of it being labor-owned means of production. And he decides it's going to be state-owned means of production, and he wants to keep it that way. And so he gives himself more and more and more power. Well, what did China do? China says, we see what happened over here, and they opened up the markets, like you said 2 weeks ago. They opened up the markets so that they could trade. Again, they are still a communist country, but their middle class has grown at a rate 10 times that of ours. And in fact, our middle class has shrunk while theirs has grown. But they participate in the world market. But it's still, like I said, it's still socialism or still communism. But we've made it such a bad word where we can't even think of considering that maybe our ideas aren't the fucking best.
think it
and
was
that's just a
Marx
co-opting
himself. It was
of
Karl Marx
words
himself who
by
said the ultimate goal of socialism is to move into communism. So the idea that you presented early on in that is false based upon the people who were involved in Russia at the time of the communist takeover.
From what I've read of Lenin, that's incorrect. Now, I may be uninformed, but yes, Stalin wanted state control.
Mm-hmm.
But communism is not socialism. They're not the same things. Communism is more state controlled. Well, in reality, they're both kind of the same, but it's still, they want labor or community control instead of people at the top or the state.
Mm-hmm.
So a community of farmers to be in charge of farmers. There's no business owner. There's no employer. Profit is theft.
How do you feel about personal property?
So actually, I learned this the other day when I was looking this up. Russia had personal property.
Yeah,
and they
the shirt
took
on
it.
Your back.
No, they took the farms from the bourgeoisie and gave it to the laborers as their personal property.
Yeah.
So they had personal property in communist Russia. Now, Stalin went and took a bunch of it.
You should really look up some of the history of Magnitogorsk, the industrial block there. From the person who lived there, they did not have personal property. They had the shirt on their back, the shoes on their feet. It was the.
When was that written?
I have to check. Hold on. Oh, I'm gonna match you. 1 sec. It was from a journal of a guy who was alive, I believe. Magnitogorsk.
I want to talk about reopening the schools. I mentioned that earlier, and it's kind of a hot button right now. And I sent you some stuff. Okay. So one of the things right now in the news is reopening the schools, and I just want to say I am here for it. I think personally that we should absolutely reopen all schools. I think kids should be in school. The thing that concerns me, though, is I just saw an article today about teachers are at the bottom of the list to be vaccinated. We're not 1A, 1B. We're not even at the top of the list, but we are frontline workers. I've been vaccinated. I'm lucky enough. My wife works at pharmacy, so I'm lucky enough to have been vaccinated. I've got both shots, and so hopefully I'm up there in the 95% working. Here are the reasons why. One, the failure rate right now. The failure rate for VLA kids is astronomical. Kids are not getting work done. They're VLA? Not. Oh, that's Virtual Learning Academy. Sorry. Or virtual learning. So they're learning from home. The number of kids failing, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know it's crazy, and it's nationwide. Like, for example, when we were in the middle of football season and we're struggling with grades, I had out of 75 kids, I had 45 kids fail the first 6 weeks. So I couldn't even field. I'm a freshman coach, so I couldn't even field 2 teams. I had to cut it down to 1 team because I didn't have enough to keep playing. And one of the middle schools here in the district, they every single virtual kid failed. Every single virtual athlete failed for the 6 weeks and could not continue playing. And these are kids that we communicate with, we talk to, we see them, for practice or whatever. So this doesn't even include the kids that are never show up. I have a list of students that that have more than like 30 absences on the year, that are in my class personally. We did a survey the other day, which for teachers, for kids that have quote unquote disappeared, that we can't get in contact with, that don't show up for class, that don't show up to do any work on the internet. They've essentially just disappeared. So I absolutely do think kids need to be in class. The ones that are in class currently are the ones that are doing well, at least in my class. I can say that for me, right? Again, that's anecdotally, but that's what I've seen. I mean, there is research out there that shows that VLA or virtual kids are, for the most part, doing poorly. Are there some that are doing well? Yes. That's not that I can't say that they are not performing well. And we have taken a tack that basically, if you fail 2-6 weeks doing virtual, you have to come back to school. Like, that's our new rule. Like, if you fail 2-6 weeks in a row, you have to come back in for the third 6 weeks. So there are things that are in place that are there are things that are in place that are beneficial for us. But I want to talk about this kind of from an athletic standpoint, because that's a lot of what I do. Athletics, in my opinion, it is a vehicle to teach kids about life. And there are so many things that a lot of people don't understand about athletics. Texas does athletics different than anywhere else in the country. One thing that we talked about this week that you probably didn't know or you might not understand is this is the only place in the country, I think, with the exception of maybe one or two, where we see our kids every single day during the school period. We get 90 minutes with our athletes every day for lifting, running, off season, in season. We get 90 minutes a day. And that time for developing, for character development, for weight training, for physical training is invaluable. I've sent you this meme, or I wanted you to pull up real fast. It's from these coaches in California. Now, California, they haven't had their football season yet, and they may not have it. But a group of coaches from 105 schools that canceled football this season in the fall, 1,087 players ineligible, 253 players dropped out, 64 players are incarcerated, 85 players have joined gangs, and 38 football players are new fathers. That's what, I mean, athletics, it saves lives. I mean, this doesn't give you the ones that have died from not doing, from being where they shouldn't have been. But it's pretty crazy. We were able to have a full season here in Texas. The week we started this show is the week of the state championship. And we had quarantines and we had things left and right. And, there were a lot of issues with the season, but we had a season. And we were so thankful to get that time in. We signed this past week was National Signing Day. I don't know if you were aware of that or even know what that is. But it's basically the day where it's the day where all the high school kids can sign their national letters of intent to go to school. And we signed this year 8 kids to go play college football that got scholarships to go play college football. So huge thing, that we would not have had so we had at least one kid in that group of 8 that didn't have varsity film before this year. And so if you try to go play college ball without varsity film, it's almost a near impossibility. Like, you have to have at least a highlight tape of something to send college coaches where they'll recruit you. But if we didn't have it, so I can only imagine what this is like for a lot of these kids over in California that haven't had the opportunity to have a season. They haven't been scouted before their senior year, and so nobody's looking at them. You know, that's detrimental to these kids' lives. You know, that I know that a lot of people are like, well, sports isn't everything, but dude, that's like that's scholarship money. You know,
Yeah.
like I said, the one kid that I know he had never played varsity ball ended up being a starter this year for us because I think the kid in front of him ended up being quarantined and he got the starting job and ended up doing really well,
So he wasn't even
and carried on through the season.
like when it started out.
He wasn't, and now he's gonna go. Now he's gonna go play college ball. Like these are the things that happen. I got my first starting job because I think somebody got kicked off the team or they got in trouble and couldn't play or something. The first varsity game I ever started was because somebody else did the wrong thing.
Yeah,
so I was a sophomore though, so at a bigger school.
I was too. It was just a smaller school.
Anyway, my point is, and I know you really don't have a dog in this fight. My point is, I do think the schools should reopen, and I understand that a lot of people are very concerned about the virus and they think they should be able to quarantine, and I get that, but we are doing damage to these kids. They need to be in school. Absolutely, 100%.
I 100% agree with that. I have no.
At least give them an option. At least give them an option to be in school. Because I didn't even know this. There are still some schools that are all 100% virtual.
Yeah.
Like, you have to at least give them an option to be in class. Man, it's just... It's important.
No, it's a bad situation, and it's through all grade levels. I don't think it's just high school, but...
That's what I'm saying.
I know your argument is about athletics, but... Like, I don't know. I think it's...
But it goes more than that. It goes deeper than that. It goes to I'm telling you, like, kids are disappearing. I've had personally, and I've been doing this. I've been doing this for almost 10 years. I had 4 kids drop out this year, drop out of school altogether. I've never had a student drop out before in my entire career. I've had 4 this year. That's crazy. No, they unenrolled. They dropped out of high school.
That's crazy.
Like it's bananas.
The closest I can relate to that situation is when I transferred out of Baylor and I started down at A&M and Ike hit right in 2008. Like, I'd been there for all of just started the semester, and then we'd been there for a few months. And I think it was September 8th, I evacuated Galveston.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and anyway, I drove back to my buddies and slept on his couch for like a month or whatever. And and eventually it was like, all right, we're starting school back up, but everybody's going to College Station. And so I was one of the, like, they scrambled around, they'd done all this work to get housing for, you know, the entire campus of Galveston. And hey, look at your dogs.
I remember that.
Anyways,
I think I was dating my wife at the time.
Yeah.
And she was also going to school in College Station, and so when I went to go see her, I got to see you too, and we went to a movie or something.
We went to the chicken, I think, the old Dixie chicken.
Yeah, we did.
There's steins that are bigger than my head. But anyway,
that's right. That's good times. Good
times. So anyway, I say all that to say that semester I basically was at 18 hours, I think. Thanks, buddy. Yeah. Where's the other blocks? I had 18 hours going into it, or 16 hours going into it. And I remember I dropped down to 12 hours I think I started the semester with 18, and I dropped down to 12 hours that semester because there was like a government class I had to take, and it was all online because the teacher never evacuated. And I immediately dropped that class because doing the online learning that, like in college, with the roommate that I had, the roommate that I had was a trip. He was like 52, and here I am at 23.
I remember
and that guy drank more than anyone I had ever met in my entire life.
I forgot about that. You had that old roommate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and he always had like, I can't remember if it was Bush. It was Bush Original. That's what he always had in the fridge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah, no. So I dropped that online class because I was like, man, it's as much as I can do to like stay sane, just going to class here. Of course, then they had us like packed into the church basement, like across the street from the campus.
Yeah.
So doing that for a semester for me was unbearable. So the idea that I'm going to spend the whole school year doing online learning, like I would not have been successful.
Well, and I'll say this: it is because we as teachers are doing both. We are like simultaneously doing both.
Yeah.
Like I have to teach class on the computer and to the kids in front of me.
At the same time.
And so it's hard to make sure that everybody's, at the same time. And so it's hard to make sure that everybody's engaged. And it's actually a lot of what I'm doing right here is sitting in front of a computer, but also talking to the people over here. And so I have to answer these questions, and these people never really hear the question, so I have to repeat the question, and then I have to go into the answer, and it gets to be a bit of a thing. So one thing I wanted to say, just to change the topic, because I think we've got to get off soon, but I am reading a book right now. I'm doing a book study on the book called So You Want to Talk About Race. And I'm about 15, 20 pages in.
Yeah.
And it's I'll be honest with you, even as a progressive, it's hard to read. And not like because it's like bad storytelling or bad writing. It's hard to read because it's hard to look at some of the arguments and like hear them as a white person. And so I kind of want to talk about it a little bit once I finish it. We're supposed to have some group discussions, and I kind of want to get into that. But like if I were a Ben Shapiro type, I could totally destroy this book in like 10 seconds. So I'm trying to read it. I'm trying to read it with an open mind, and so, but I'm telling you, it's tough because I'm trying to have an open mind about it, and it's a struggle, man.
Does it just make logical jumps, or like you say you can destroy it in 10 seconds flat, but like what does that mean? Is it logically unsound, or?
So her arguments are good. I'll say that. Like the lady that wrote it has really, really good arguments, but she'll make a statement and then back it up. And so I read the statement like, white men are angry because they were promised success if they did all the right things, and participated and worked hard. They would have success and they would be financially successful, but that didn't happen for them, and so they're angry at minorities.
I will agree that they're angry, and they will be angry at whoever yells the loudest at, like pointing the blame, I guess.
And
like
so,
it's an undirected anger, and so it can be easily directed.
But for me, being a liberal, being a Sokdam being a, borderline socialist, if we're going to be honest. For me, everything relates to class. And so I don't really, it's hard for me because I don't necessarily always care about color, which I should, I guess. But for me, it's like class and class struggle matters more to me. And maybe that's my white privilege. I don't know, but that's one of the things I'm struggling with is that because I see class struggle as the more important thing, do I see it that way because I'm white? Like, I don't know. Because FDR was the hero, but he's also like super fucking racist. You know what I mean? Like super racist, like bad. So, I don't know. Anyway, I just wanted to say that I'm going to finish reading it. I'm going to go to some of these discussions, and eventually I want to talk about it on the show.
What is this book?
It's called So You Want to Talk About Race.
Okay.
And I can't pronounce the lady's name, so I'm not going to try.
That's unacceptable.
And I don't remember it, actually, if I'm being 100% honest. I don't
really
remember.
honest, you just don't remember. That's your privilege right there.
It totally is. No, I looked her up. Well, I looked her up because I wanted to hear like some counter arguments and see if she debated anybody about some things. No, she doesn't. She just goes on and talks to liberal people, and the liberal people bow down and let her go and don't push back on anything. So I was just curious if anything
kind of like
was there, but it wasn't. At least not that I could find.
What's that Robin lady's name? Fragility. It's kind of like her. I've never seen her debate anybody.
The white fragility? Oh, yeah. That one.
I've never seen her debate anybody.
No, they won't.
It's like,
well, I just want somebody that's that will. I need to hear the arguments against and hear how you go about. Because if we just let you talk and let you go, you can say whatever you want. You know what I mean?
He was about to hit the power switch on the computer.
Nice. All right. Well, we're at 1 minute over, so.
Yep.
We probably need to call it. Thanks for watching this episode of BroPartisan Hacks. All right, bud. Bye. Thank you for watching this episode of BroPartisan Hacks with Reese and Rob. We really, really appreciate you watching, tuning in. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to us. We're putting out content as often as we can. Share it with your friends. Get it out there. Get our names out there. Also, hit that bell, tap that bell right there so that you can get updated when we put out a new video. Rob and I are trying to pump these videos out as often as we can. However, we both have day jobs, we have families, so our schedules have to line up so that we can make a new video. Speaking of our day jobs, our opinions and views expressed are our own and in no way represent those of our respective employers. Thank you. Thanks again for watching.